I'm watching the news today, and I see news that I honestly didn't think I'd ever see, which is that not only is the UK in a significant deficit, um, it's estimated that we're in a deficit of about 50 billion, but their solutions to solving that deficit, or as they like to call it, a black hole, they're starting to float that it may be a 4 percentage point rise in income tax. Now, that is insane. I've been working for about, I'm going to date myself now, but about 13 years or so. I've never seen a tax rise like this. If it happens, I'll be very shocked if it happens, but if it happens, that would be monumental, because a 4 percentage point rise, I mean, I don't have to explain this, but it's not a 4% rise. So they're thinking of adding a 4 percentage point rise to those who are paying the basic rate of income tax, which, and let me check here, I haven't checked this for a while, but I'm pretty sure it's 20%. Yeah, it's 20%. And then you've got the additional rate. The basic rate is 20%. You've then got the higher rate at 40%, and then you've got additional rate at 45%. So if you're on a 20%, if you're paying a basic rate of 20%, that's between about 12,500 and 50,000 and a half. You're paying 20%. A 4 percentage point rise at that level is a 20% rise in your taxation, which is huge. You know, if you're paying 45 or 40%, it's around about 8 to 8.5% rise, about 9% rise in the amount of taxes that you're paying on income on a yearly basis. And as if that's not bad enough, I actually done a little bit of research on how much taxes have risen on multiple different things over the last 5 years. And it's just insane, really, because if we look at the major tax rises that we've had in the last 5 years, let me kind of go through it with you. So the first one in 2021, they actually froze income tax thresholds. So what will typically happen is that most people got a pay rise at the every single year. So they might make an extra 2, 3, 4, 5%. And what the government will do is, you have your tax-free rate. The government would basically raise that. So to avoid people going into additional or higher rate taxation, so on a like-for-like basis, they'll be taxed the same. On a like-for-like basis, kind of keeping up with inflation. They froze that in 2021. And what that basically means is, as your pay increases because of inflation, more and more people are paying the 40% rate of tax. And also, more and more people are paying taxes on inflated money. So ultimately, that leads to people having less in real purchasing power, which can be a significant hit to the economy, especially if you're trying to support businesses, etc. Right? That's happened in 2021. In 2022, they actually increased national insurance contributions for individuals. So if you're an individual, they increase your national insurance contribution by 1.25 percentage points. So it went up from 15.05% to 16.2%. Now again, 105 percentage points is not 1%. It is, let me just work it out here. It's a 7%, 7.5% increase in national insurance. So if you're paying $100 in national insurance, in 2022, all of a sudden now you're paying $107.60 pence. So again, a 7% taxation increase. And this is Basically, national insurance and income tax are basically the same thing. It's a tax on working people, as they like to call. So that's huge. So it's a 7% tax in 2022. Then, just keep it in line with national insurance or just taxation to you. In 2025, they increased taxes to your employer from 13.8% to 15%, an 8.6% increase in the cost to your employer in hiring you. Not only that, but they actually lowered the threshold by which you start paying it from 9,100 to £5,000. So what that basically means is for every single employee, I think there's a cutoff for how large the company has to be. That employer is now paying an extra. So I'm basically doing 4,100 divided by 100 times 15. That is now paying an extra £615 just to keep you hired. Now, what do you think is going to happen with that? Do you think, some employers have the ability to just take it on the chin and then just pay for you. But if you're a business that has a large number of employees, like a supermarket chain or a fast food chain or whatever that may be, that likely represents what your annual bonus or salary or annual salary increase would have been that year. So instead of you getting 3%, maybe you're getting 2% because the government needs to give a percent to the government or some amount of money to the government to continue to hire you. It's just additional cost to them, right? Then you have corporation taxes. That's gone up from 19% to 25%. Now you might think, oh, hold on, I don't own a corporation. I don't really care. Well, again, it's not 6 percentage points. It is a 31% increase in corporation tax, which is insane. It's huge. But again, doesn't matter to you, you're not a business. But what do you think businesses are doing with those taxes? They're sending those taxes right down to the consumer, causing for the cost of goods that you buy on a daily basis to significantly increase. And, you effectively have less money in your pocket. So that's corporation taxes. Also, they started charging a small corporation tax for businesses that earned less than £50,000. So like a small business, like a really, really small business, which is, never really happened before. Business rates also increased. That's a lot of increase. Also as well, the government was supporting a lot of small businesses by paying some parts of the business rates and also, which is effectively like their version of council tax, and also energy duties. So, paying your part of your energy fees, which by the way is really weird because if you had a competitive energy market, they wouldn't need to do that. And what they're actually doing is subsidizing energy companies to charge whatever they want to charge because they know that they have a guaranteed buyer in the government. Again, a story for another day. Capital gains taxes. You used to be able to make a little bit of money, make an investment, and be able to pay very nominal taxes. That actually rose from 28% to 24% for residential properties. Again, I'm not going to do the maths on all of these, but that is, I'm guessing it's going to be about 5%. 16%. That's insane. 16% increase in residential property capital gains taxes. They also increased the business asset disposal relief, which is basically when you sell a business, how much taxes you pay to sell that business, growing it from 10% to 14%, and having plans to increase it to 18% at the end of 2026, which basically makes it very unattractive if you're an entrepreneur to start a business, because a lot of entrepreneurs, they might basically go flat and not make any money from the business, but make all their money back when they sell it in 5 or 6 years. So that kind of takes away the incentive to do that. They increase property taxes or stamp duty. Again, this is all within like the last 4 years. Increased stamp duty. They actually increase. They didn't increase the rate, but by decreasing the tax-free component, like the tax-free part of it. So if you were buying a house for like £300,000, all of it was you didn't pay any stamp duty on it. They actually reduced that from, I think it was from 250 to £125,000. So if you're paying, I don't know exactly what stamp duty is. Let me check. So again, if you're paying 2% on a house on 125,000 that you weren't paying before, that is £3,000 in additional taxes that they're taking for that one property. They reduced it also for first time buyers from 425,000 to £300,000, which again is them taking about £3,000 from first time buyers, people who are just trying to get a foot in the door of the property market, that tax-free component of the purchase. They also got rid of holiday lets. You used to be able to pay very minimal taxes on holiday lets, and frankly, that's what kept a lot of like small towns like Blackpool and Whitstable and other like seaside towns in this country afloat, because there's not a lot of hotels. People would come in, stay at an Airbnb or stay at a bed and breakfast, supply money to the local community. There was a lot of them, so it was quite cheap to do so, and it would kind of revitalize and keep those towns alive, at least during the summer. That's gone now. There's not a lot of investors that are going to want to buy, properties in these locations, because they're not going to be able to make money from it. Again, this is in 5 years, in 4 years, sorry. They basically removed almost all of the tax incentives to buy an electric vehicle. Again, they were, making a big noise about how we're going to go all electric 2030, and they basically removed almost every single financial incentive to do so. Removed the vehicle excise duty. They are making you pay road tax now for electric vehicles. And I think in certain parts of the country, like say in London, I think they pay they pay congestion charge as well. And that's just like what I could think of off the top of my head. So if you're an average person, you're paying thousands of pounds more, probably 3, 4, 5,000 pounds more in taxes, either hidden or otherwise. So whether you're getting it in your hand or it's having a knock-on effect on you through your employer, or you're getting charged that taxation via higher cost of goods and services. And to know that they're now thinking of increasing taxes again, or not thinking of it, they basically have to do it. It kind of puts me to think that we're going to get into this kind of whirlpool where taxes rise, they make it very unattractive to actually work. People who do work and are productive members of society and are trying to make a better life for themselves can't afford to live in the UK, so they move abroad. And it basically just becomes this perpetual cycle, which I think if this country is not careful of, it could very easily become like Spain or Greece in the 2010s. And I think if that's the path they're going to go down, it could be quite dangerous. But that's just my thought. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe. This isn't really like a polished video. It's more like a rant, because I really can't believe what they're trying to do. I really can't believe it. And I hope that enough people speak out about it to get them to do what they probably should do, which is to cut costs somewhere. I'm not, I'm not going to say where, but to cut the cost or lower the budget of the government in some way, shape, or form, as opposed to just trying to tax your way out of the situation, which just doesn't work. All right, have a good day. Subscribe, like to this video, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye bye.